Hello, I'm Callum Macleod, minister at Shawbost Free Church in the island of Lewis. It is my privilege today to say a few words by way of seeking to encourage you at this difficult time. The prolonged lockdown has made us realise how much we benefit from gathering with our families, gathering with God's people, and meeting with friends, neighbours and colleagues. How do we manage this new normal? Perhaps the best way of managing the new norm is to ensure that we are doing the normal Christian things. I want to bring before you 3 such normal things today by way of encouragement. First of all, we need to manage our fears. This might seem a strange thing to say, but fear in the Christian life is a healthy thing to have. We fear God and keep His commandments because we show our love for Him. God blessed Abraham because God saw that Abraham feared Him. In the current coronavirus crisis, we are fearful, and rightly so. We fear for ourselves, we fear for our families, we fear for our neighbours, and we fear for our friends and colleagues. And of course we fear for key workers at the front line of giving care to those who are suffering at this time. It would be wrong for us to be controlled by such fears, but it would also be wrong for us to write off such fears. We need to face the reality of what is happening around us. We need to be careful to follow all the guidelines. We need to be careful to protect ourselves and others as far as possible from catching the virus. Fear, as distinct from anxiety, reminds us of our need for God and keeps us watchful and keeps us prayerful. And so today we manage our fears by bringing them to God in prayer and discovering that, in the words of Psalm 46, we do not need to fear though the earth gives way, because God is our refuge and our strength. Secondly, we need to manage our focus. This is so important. In our enforced isolation, we can become so absorbed in what's happening around us and so caught up with the daily headlines that demand our attention that we lose sight of the main things. In the Old Testament book of Isaiah, the people were looking into a time of adversity, a time of sorrow, a time of desolation. From time to time, they were so overwhelmed by the sheer distress of their situation that they even questioned if God was with them. This can so easily happen to us. What is God's response to them? We read in chapter 30 of the intervention of the grace of God. A hand comes upon their shoulder. It is the hand of God. And we read the words, "Your ears will hear a word behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it,' when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left." The God who seemed to have retreated is actually with them. God was on their side, pointing them in the right direction and there to steer them forward if they were in danger of losing their course. He wants them to hear Him, to listen to Him, and to be guided by Him. God wants His people to know that they will never walk alone. The New Testament makes it clear that Jesus is the way and the truth and the life. God lays His hand on our shoulder in Jesus to ensure that we don't lose sight of His grace, of His compassion and of His love. And so today we manage our focus by ensuring that in our isolation and prayers we are sensitive to the hand of God on our shoulder. Let's keep our eyes on Jesus, the Good Shepherd, whose commitment to His people never comes to an end. Thirdly, we need to manage our faith. We need to ensure that we never stop believing in our God. Of course, we can never lose the faith which is the gift of God, but sometimes circumstances can shake our faith and undermine our faith, leading us into doubting the very goodness of God. In the Gospel of Matthew, the disciples were in their boat, beaten by the waves, and the wind was against them. Jesus came to them, walking on the sea, and they were afraid because they didn't recognize Him. As soon as Jesus made Himself known to them, their faith was revived. They were confident and fearless. So much so that Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. Their circumstances had not changed, but the presence of Jesus made all the difference. This is where we need to learn to manage our faith, because in the story of Peter, we see that this sense of confidence in Jesus didn't last long. As soon as Peter became distracted by his circumstances and saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink. Jesus rescued Peter and rebuked him for his little faith and because he doubted. We must make sure that our circumstances drive us to Jesus, but we must also make sure that our circumstances do not disconnect us from our living faith in him. So, let's not become distracted in trying times. Let's keep our focus on Jesus. Let's keep our faith in his name. By doing so, our fears will find their rightful place, and we will continue on our journey with the assurance that we will never walk alone, because Jesus is with us, even to the very end. Thank you, and God bless.